Hazard pay is back on, baby. It's in the third stimulus package, but are you going to get it? It's $1,502 as an earning income tax credit on your 2021 tax return if you're 19 years or older and you made less than $25,000. So how do you get it? In this throwback video, I explain hazard pay in 2020, which is a different type of hazard pay. There's a lot of different types of hazard pays, by the way, and the essential worker calculation. How does it apply? Enjoy this overnight LA video explaining hazard pay. Hazard pay heats up for essential workers who work in a hazardous work environment. So how much should Nancy Pelosi's hairdressing get paid? Good afternoon, everybody. This is LALATE. Hope your hair is doing well. This is Afternoon LALATE, our 2-hour programming block that, covers the check at 3:30, then hazard pay, then FPUC, and then rent. Hopefully your hair is still in place after those entire broadcasts. As always, give a like and share to this video, and subscribe if this video is to your pleasing more than your hairstyle. But let's get right to the incredible details about hazard pay and its future under a second stimulus package that's going to be introduced next week. A lot of twists and turns and a lot of big developments minutes ago from Mark Meadows as to what we should see next week. Yesterday I went over the grim situation for hazard pay for some people who are thinking they were going to get the money in September. But now we have more indication of when you could likely see a battleground potentially for hazard pay. Let me get to what just transpired. What's going to be introduced next week is the first of a two-stage bill process. Yes, it's going to be done in 2 stages. What's going to be next week is stage 1, a $500 billion bill. Stage 2 will come thereafter, about a $650 bill. By all indications, the second stage will take longer to even draft, let alone introduce. How long? I'm predicting it won't be till at least October. Now, the question is whether it's going to be introduced in some form and then maneuvered around, or that whether it's going to go under intense negotiations before even being introduced as a bill. But for purposes of this video, hazard pay is not happening next week. Yes, hazard pay will not survive the current efforts of Republicans and Democrats to get what's essentially a multi-standalone bill combined, but super tight next week. Hazard pay will not be in that $500 billion bill introduced next week. It could be in the $650 billion bill introduced in October. Moreover, you need to continue to tag your politicians and say, hey, get hazard pay, don't forget hazard pay. What's going on? Well, next week will be a bill that will address very urgent matters for people who are not employed, need stimulus checks, or need emergency relief right now. That is because next week's bill will include stimulus checks, FPUC 2.0 extension, K through 12 help for schools, and testing, and maybe airlines, but likely not. That's all it's going to cover. It's going to be $500 billion. It's going to be introduced to the Senate next week and then go to the House. It will get approved by both houses within about a week, is what Mark Meadows is representing. So this is incredibly great news if you need the check and you need that unemployment benefits. But it's not good news if you wanted hazard pay in August or wanted hazard pay in September. Just not going to happen. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's not going to happen in the month of September, hazard pay. So when could hazard pay take a form? Well, you have 2 things to really consider. The first one is the federal budget. The federal budget has to be done, approved, and become a law by September 30th. There's always the possibility that they can extend the deadline. In the past, they've not. That bill has to be done as well. Members of Congress come back into session September 8th, September 15th. Then the time of writing bills, voting on them, passing them is by September 30th for purposes of this federal budget. If they don't get that done, then they have to extend the deadline, which they may not. bottom line is they're going to do that after stimulus $500 billion bill. And once they're done with that, then they will go to stimulus stage 2, the $600 billion bill. It's at that point, early October, that you should look for the negotiations about hazard pay heating up. That's not to say you should not tag your politicians now, urge their involvement, and urge them to focus on the situation. Hazard pay has really not been pushed by its authors. Despite whatever anyone says, despite any of my reporting to really grab upon any words that come out of the Temple of Doom, or despite my ability to take any words that are tweeted by the president, hazard pay has not ever been front and center by any of these people. The reason why, arguably, is because people just don't know what's in their own bill. I'm not being facetious. The bill hazard pay is in. The HEROES Act is 1,800 pages long. And what Mark Meadows said today, he said yesterday, and he'll say tomorrow, is that the chief negotiator on behalf of the hazard pay bill, HEROES Act, the Temple of Doom, doesn't even know what she's asking for. She doesn't know the numbers. She doesn't know the way they're calculated. She doesn't know anything. And so for you and I to sit here and talk about hazard pay, guess what's missing in this discussion? How much is hazard pay in the HEROES Act? Is it $1 billion? Is it $2 billion? Don't know. Don't know. When was the last time anyone from the Temple of Doom told us? Don't know. When was the last time any Democrat who signed that bill told us how much hazard pay is allocated, how much funds of hazard pay is in that bill? Don't know. You know why this is so important is that when you talk about bills, just the fact that something is in a bill means nothing if we don't know how much money is allocated for that. Remember, hazard pay is a diminishing fund. I've detailed that in the last couple of days where when hazard pay was put in place in states and businesses applied that had 800 employees, it was diluted by 40% within 24 hours. It was gone. 40% was gone in like 24 hours when big companies with a lot of employees applied for all the employees and got the hazard pay for them. Okay, so how about the HEROES Act? How much money is in there? Don't know. Now, we can certainly look it up, but how many times have we had a Democrat tell us how much money is in the HEROES Act dedicated for hazard pay? Don't know. Is it done on a national level? It will be X dollars for a national level, and it will be dispersed at an equal proportion across the entire United States? Don't know. Can one business that has 50,000 or 500,000 or 5 million employees certainly apply and take 20% of the entire dedication of grant money for hazard pay for its business? Yes. That's the problem, is that when you have people who write bills that talk about wonderful things like hazard pay but don't safeguard how things are done, it becomes run amok. It sort of sounds like, no, it exactly sounds like PPP. Remember when PPP went live? Businesses that had special inroads with certain small commercial banks in their local area, that they had done business with them, put in enormous loans right away for PPP, 25 million, 10 million, 10 million. And within 2 to 3 days after PPP went live, it was gone. The funds were gone. Big businesses with big inroads and a lot of banking relationships got applications in and took the money. Same thing will happen with hazard pay if there's no indication about protections. Big businesses with a lot of employees, with a big accounting department that can do a lot of accounting and a lot of processing and a lot of applications very quickly, could grab all your money and it could be gone in seconds. So who does hazard pay really help then? We don't know. We simply don't know. And so as we come into the second stage of the stimulus packages, will hazard pay be in there? Don't know. Will Republicans put it in there? Don't know. Have any Republicans supported hazard pay? Yes. Mitt Romney supported hazard pay very strongly. He ensured that it was there, but did he ensure how much in funds that hazard pay would be allocated? No. Did he ensure that more hazard pay funds would be allocated than Democrats proposed? Don't know. It's like saying you're going to do something, but when you get to the details, it's like... So I've had, needless to say, a lot of viewers just hear the number $10,000, and it's just like... that everything else that's in the video is sort of blown out by them still going... Okay, so to get the $10,000, you have, okay, you got to listen to the rest of the video. Some people have gotten so excited about hazard pay that they failed to listen to the other parts of how hazard pay that you can't apply, that your employer applies, that the Temple of Doom has not been speaking very publicly about hazard pay, that it may not survive in negotiations, that it's not in the first stimulus package coming next week, that we don't know when it's coming back. Then the next question is, so am I getting hazard pay next week? It's just, it's the question, however, and you know what I'm about to say. The question, however, is whether or not the authors of the HEROES Act put hazard pay in for more publicity purposes than really functional purposes. If hazard pay doesn't really function the way it's supposed to function, then what was the purpose of having it in the bill? Now, I'm not saying it's not functioning right, but so far it has a provision in there that the employer may apply. You can't apply. The employer does not have to apply. If they don't apply, you have recourse against the employer. Okay, so basically it's sort of like, if you feel in the mood to go get some money for someone else, you can go do it. Does that sound reassuring? No, it has never sounded reassuring. Moreover, when all we hear is children going hungry, children hungry, children going hungry, stay in the local, stay in the local, stay in the local, stay in the local, and we don't hear about hazard pay, the gut reaction is, did you really care about me? Arguably, no. When this pandemic first hit, the most important people in the pandemic were the people who were working frontline. You. Nurses, pharmacists, teachers, grocery store people, shippers, drivers, deliverers, warehouse workers. Your services were overwhelmingly needed. You were in the grocery store stocking the stuff. You were at the pharmacist cleaning the door. You were the maintenance worker in the building. You were the person who did home health care or nursing care or physical therapy. You were the person who helped with education. You were the person who helped with shipping and delivering. You were the person who delivered things across the country in a truck. You were the person who brushed our teeth. Yeah, they did cover dentists. I'm not quite sure why dentists are essential, but they are. You were the person that really tried to ensure that as the pandemic hit, that we had essential services being provided. And now what are we hearing? That Andrew and Gavin take precedent over you. The state and local, state and local, state and local, state and local. Guess what state and local did for you? They fired you. Of course they did. They fired you, laid you off, furloughed you, forced you into early retirement. That's how state and local took care of you. When the pandemic hit, states and local cities, counties could not make budget. They weren't getting the revenue from their businesses that were shut down. So what did they do? They told you can quit. And if you don't quit, you don't take early retirement, they're going to fire you. Many were first forced into early retirement. Some were furloughed, but many were just fired or told to take early retirement. And so what did they do, the states? Well, they kept the money from the first stimulus check round. They didn't pay you as essential workers. They didn't even keep you on staff. And we're not just talking about state and local that did this. Airlines did it too. Airlines asked for $50 billion in the first stimulus check round. Government said, no, you're not giving you $50 billion. They said, well, we can't survive and keep our employees on staff unless you give us money for the first stimulus round. Help us. So they gave them $25 billion. And what did they do? They fired you too. They fired you, they furloughed you, forced you into early retirement. So again, another industry, another sector, asked for money, got the money, asked for the money for you, for the employee to keep you on staff, and what did they do? Fired you. Kevin O'Leary has a theory about this, whether it's PPP, that is ultimately the same version of this. Remember PPP, money for employees to keep them on staff, and then they fired them. Kevin O'Leary says, stop spending money on businesses to keep people on staff. Just give them enhanced unemployment benefits and unemployment benefits that they need $600 a week, enhanced unemployment benefits. Give them all those benefits and stop giving money to their employer hoping it's going to go to the employee, because they never ever give it to them. All they do is go bankrupt or say, give me more money. And so as we sit here today, what will happen with hazard pay? Will Democrats still try to get state and local to get money and claim it's going to go to you? Sure. Will it go to you? No. Is there hope that you can get hazard pay in the first stimulus package? Not really. Is there hope it will be in the second stimulus package? Absolutely. You need to tweet your politicians right away. With that, please go to the Funds channel and subscribe and hit the alert button, because we're updating things literally by the minute as soon as something happens. We're trying to reach 250,000 subscribers in the next 2 weeks, so let's try to do it. Next, also like this video, so make sure that this... thumbs up. So ensures that this video appears live before other videos that tell you, you're going to get a $20,000 stimulus check tomorrow. Congratulations. It helps other people who have just found YouTube to find this video before that stuff that's not informative and not helpful. Coming up next is FPUC. You got to tune into that video. It's very informative, very important for what's going on. And then finally, rent. More details about what happened overnight in an eviction moratorium. As always, stay informed, stay smiling, and stay LA for more.